Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Darwinian Delusions Live. And firstly, I'm very sorry for being away for so many days without explaining where I was. How are you doing, Imran? Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, good, bro. Very good. Who made you realize that?
Yeah, that was this handsome fella here who basically pointed out that I shouldn't just disappear without explaining where I was. So basically, I traveled from Pakistan back to the UK, and then I just got lazy, stopped doing the live streams. So now I need to come back. So I have Imran for about 20 minutes, and then Imran's gonna go. So I'm gonna ask him some questions. Imran, back to basics. What I mean by that is that when we are conveying the message of Islam, when we are speaking to people, when we are, trying to articulate Islam, we complicate things unnecessarily sometimes, right? We sometimes don't get to the point. What is the point? Why are we having this conversation? I made a video about this recently, 2080, 80-20, sorry, which is that you just need to get to the point. So, like in the dawah, we just need to take people back to, look, do you believe in God? Like, forget Islam is barbaric because of this law. I don't believe in God because it's a getting monster fiction. Just get to the point. What's going to happen after you die? Why do you exist? Why is it important to cut the nonsense and just get straight to the point?
Because people have little time, bro. We don't have forever. Like, everyone's on their way out. Yeah, everyone has an expiry date. Everyone's gonna die very soon. So it's not like we're here forever. You don't have the luxury of sitting there philosophizing and romanticizing and being a poet and just fiddling around with all of those insignificant, trivial, unimportant things which you would do if you had forever, right? We've got a very limited period of time on this earth. As far as our lives are concerned, and we've got a very limited period of time whenever we have a discussion with someone. So we have to make the most of our time with people, and especially when it comes to sharing the message of Islam, it's important to get to the point and to do it not in a rushed way, but just to talk about things that are very, very important and those that are fundamental, so people can benefit, we can benefit, and we can all benefit together, inshallah.
Yeah, definitely. And the way we need to think about it as well is that if you have a lot of money in your bank account, right, and you need to shop and you need to buy food for your family, the sun's come out again.
You're glowing again like a holy man.
Is that better?
There we go. Yeah,
that's better. So anyway, you need to buy food for your family, you need to do shopping, you need to do all this stuff. But fundamentally, if you can't find your bank card and you can't access your account, all of that is meaningless, right? So it doesn't matter if you on paper are a billionaire. It doesn't matter if you have a high paying job. It doesn't matter what. If you can't access your account, you're poor. You can't do anything. Likewise, if you disbelieve in God, you are poor from an epistemic point of view. You're poor from a rationality point of view. So, people are always, when they're arguing against God, they're using concepts that they don't fundamentally realize. These concepts don't even make sense if God doesn't exist. So one of the issues they'll say is, oh, I don't believe in God because I don't think it's true, or science gives truth, or, give me a rational argument for God. All of these questions presuppose, number one, that we can access truth. Number two, that truth is valuable. It actually has intrinsic value. But if there is no God, truth has no value. Truth is absolutely meaningless. Truth and falsehood are equal. So if you try and tell somebody, don't do that because that's not true, they'll say, yeah, but I like falsehood. And you'll have no argument against them. Truth and falsehood is meaningless. So denying God, denying God and not dealing with that as a basic issue, there's no point. Sometimes there's no point talking to an atheist. When an atheist says, I don't believe in God because I don't think it's rational, you can just ask them, rationality doesn't make sense without God anyway. Basically, God is the one concept that opens up all of the epistemic doors, and disbelief in God closes all of them.
Yeah, you're right, bro. Like, what does it mean? Why want to be rational? What does that mean? Yeah, why step up and defend atheism or naturalism or whatever other ideology you've got? Like, why do any of these things? What's the driving force? Where is the meaning behind all of these things?
Yeah.
You know, one thing that can be easily concluded is that if you deny God and you adopt a worldview which promotes the idea that there is no creator, there is no cause, it's all just one big accident, which has somehow resulted in everything, including us, then well, accidents don't have meaning, bro. You know, at the end of the day, when you spill milk, it's spilt milk from at least from a worldly perspective, right? So the point is that if there's no meaning behind anything in the absence of God, well, then you can't move from there. You can't do anything. You can't go anywhere, right? What does it even mean to have a discussion with a theist? You know, what does it mean to want to win or push or promote humanism or promote atheism or materialism? You know, what does it mean to promote godlessness? What does any of this mean? You know, why does that have any significance? It's nihilism, bro. And you're just trying to inject meaning into that, and it's all patchwork. You know, I mentioned the other day. It's like being on a submarine and there's like holes. As soon as you deny God, there's holes that emerge in the submarine, and you're plugging one hole and another one pops up, and there's water coming in that hole. You plug another one, a third hole opens up, and there's water coming in, spraying in from all these different holes, and you're just doing patchwork continuously, right? And it's important to get to the foundations, because what we're doing here, bro, and I think is very powerful, is much of the discourse we have with atheists and naturalists, it puts them on a pedestal. From the perspective, it's like saying, okay, when we engage with atheists, when they say, give me an argument for God's existence, I say, here is an argument. Here is the Kalam cosmological argument. Here is the dependency argument. When we do this, what we're doing is we're saying, atheists, you are the judge. Go sit on the judge's seat. I'm going to present the case to you, and you decide whether you believe or not. That's what we're doing. But essentially what we're talking about here right now, bro, is go to the foundations. When you go to the foundations, what you're essentially doing before that supposed judge walks into the court, you're saying, show me your credentials. You know, show me the paperwork. Where's your degree? They don't have anything, right? And this is what we're trying to highlight. Sometimes we give people too much intellectual respect from that perspective, right? Not that we shouldn't respect human beings. Of course we should. Every human being is a human, and God created every single human being, and every human being is equal from that perspective. So we should respect people, and we should also wish for their guidance, and therefore try to facilitate for their guidance by being as nice as we can, and as gentle and kind as we can, right? Because you don't want to offend and upset people, because that may become a barrier to the guidance, and we don't want to do that. But at the same time, you have to call a spade, right? You have to. If you don't, then that's an injustice on those people, right? Because sometimes when you engage with atheists on that level, you're making them feel comfortable in their atheism by giving them that position of, look, let's have that. You're at the level where we can have that rational discourse, but they're not, right? You have to point out, look, when you deny God, you strip yourself from all of those fundamental things that you need to even have a discussion with a theist, right? So it's important to point this out. Very important to point this out.
And I think you're absolutely correct that we give them way too much of a status. So they come to us and they're like, oh, give me an argument for God. And it's like, why? Because I want a rational argument. Well, why do you value rationality? Of rationality, of course we do. No. You're a skeptic. You're a skeptic. Remember that. This is the funny thing about these people who call themselves skeptics. They're not actually skeptics about everything. They're only selectively skeptical. So you can ask them, well, why do you value rationality? Because it's good. It's good to be rational. Okay, what's good? What's good and bad? Give me a particular chemical composition that's evil, or a particular atomic structure that's good. Where does good exist? Like, what is good except an illusion created by our genes to help us survive? Khalas, it's the end. It's literally the end. That's why I think your point's very important, that we give them too much leverage, right? And we just need to go back to basics and say, look, at the end of the day, and I do this sometimes with atheists, I just say, look, at the end of the day, what's going to happen after you die? What's the meaning of life? Why? And I think this is one of my favorite questions. In 1,000 years from now, everything you've done, what does it mean? Very important question. Now, the atheist, what can they say to that? What can they say? They can potentially say, I hope I've made the world a better place. But if the world is pointless, as a former atheist once pointed out to me, right? If the world is pointless, how can you make the pointless better?
Yeah, there is no better than.
You can't.
Yeah.
So what is your life 1,000,000 years from now, 1,000 years from now?
Yeah.
What, all
Yeah,
your pain, all your suffering, your loved ones, your relationship, your finance, your care, your sympathy, your empathy. Was that a robot trying to like?
That was something trying to get into my. It was a phone call actually. It was a robot.
Look, I know this sounds really dumb, yeah, but I'm holding a comb in my hand. Yeah. If I comb my hair this way, which I know
Which
Imran,
you need to do. Which you need to do anyway. Yeah.
Imran, you're getting very jealous, yeah. So if I comb my hair this way, right, or if I comb it this way, in 1,000 years from now, does that matter? Does it matter I combed it clockwise or anti-clockwise?
Well, if it doesn't matter in the here and now, then it's surely not going to matter in 1,000 years' time, bro. Right?
Like
so that's another problem.
like that.
Yeah. So.
And the fact is, it's meaningless. Totally meaningless. Yeah. This should be a new prop to go and refute atheism. Just go up to them and give them a comb and tell them, yeah, listen, your life's just as meaningless as this, and just walk away.
Well, that you say is meaningful. So you're degrading that particular action by doing that. But I get your point, bro. It's just, the point you made about skepticism earlier, bro. Man, if you apply skepticism to your naturalism, what's going to happen then, man?
Brother Jordan wrote Imran broke wudu. When that robot thing came on, when it started shaking. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Jordan. Jazakallah khair for joining us. That was quite funny. Okay. I like this comment by Ekzer. Popular atheists may have certificates and qualifications academically, but it all means nothing when they follow up spiritually. I think this is a very important point, Imran.
Yeah.
Sticking to basics, going back to God's existence and getting away from all this nonsense. Me and you in the office today, we were laughing our heads off at a video of Deepak Chopra speaking to Sam Harris, right? And that for me is keeping things basics, keeping things to a basic level where, Sam Harris is trying to pretend to be all clever, and then Deepak is just speaking about simple concepts. And that for me was, even though we're trying to get people to talk about God rather than talk about all these issues, that for me was a really powerful example of how somebody who sticks to basics can be somebody that's trying to be very popular and clever. And
yeah, bro. It's like we say always, simplicity makes sense, man. Human beings are simple. No matter how many degrees you have, human beings are simple by their nature. We see beauty in simple things. If simple things make sense, then we don't need to. You don't need to get complex. Why get complex? Sometimes we get fluffy because you lose yourself in that fluff. And sometimes atheists like to lose themselves in the fluff, meaning they will take the discussion to such a level where it's all just fluffy hypothetical ideas and scenarios where you can easily get lost, and it's convenient. It's convenient, right? To help you justify your position and to help just keep yourself believing that what you're on is true. As long as you can lose someone in that field of fluff, then you're good, right? But it's about bring it to the basics. What does it mean to deny God? It literally means that everything is meaningless. So to deny God, I would say, is almost, if you really think about it in a very simple way, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. Because as soon as you deny God, you can't even account for your faculties that you use to deny God. It's so absurd, bro. It's so crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. This question came up, and this is kind of related to back to basics, right? So what do you think about animal rights? And sometimes atheists, they talk about how Islam is against animal rights because of the way that you have Islamic halal slaughter and all the rest. What's funny is that, again, let's go back to basics. When an atheist says, I disagree with Islam because Islam denies this, unalienable, unassailable human right, or animal right, or pigeon right, whatever it is. We start saying, well, actually Islam means this, or actually Islam means that, or this or that. We should just simply say, well, if you don't believe in God, rights don't exist. It's as simple as that. I mean, what are rights? This is so important, yeah? There's a very simple way of thinking about it. The world out there, what is the world out there? Well, it's space, time, matter, energy, and chance. That's what you have. Those are your 5 building blocks: space, time, energy, matter, chance. Those are your 5 building blocks. How are you going to use those 5 simple building blocks to basically build rights? You can't. Rights don't exist. Rights are an illusion. Rights are a byproduct of evolution, and evolution is dependent upon the environmental conditions. So it's all meaningless. However, from an Islamic point of view, Allah says He is the one who legislates. He is the one who gives things a value, a purpose, a direction, and so it makes total sense. Like in a narration of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah in a Hadith Qudsi, Allah says that I'm trying to remember the narration here. My mercy overwhelms my wrath. You remember this narration? I'm trying to remember it. Yes, I have forbidden oppression upon myself and forbidden it among you. So do not oppress each other. Here Allah is saying oppression is wrong and do not oppress each other. So He's giving a human right. He's telling us this thing should not be done. So for a right to exist, you need 2 things. You need an anchor, you need a basis, you need an objective, transcendent authority, which is Allah, and then you need the authority to legislate. So in Islam, we have both. We have the legislator and we have the legislation. But from an atheist perspective, there is no such thing as human rights. Human rights are an illusion to help us survive. So it doesn't make sense to even speak about these things. And that's why we need to go back to basics. Whatever an atheist says, whether it's about human rights, ethics, morality, rationality, we can say to them, without God, there's no rationality. Without God, there's no morality. Without God, there's no ethics. There's no rights. There's no purpose. There's no direction. Everything is absolutely meaningless, right? That's why I truly believe nihilism is the ultimate weapon against atheists.
Yeah, to be honest, bro, it's gonna be, and it is the main, I believe, one of the main things that's pushing people away from that sort of, if you like, classical naturalism or atheism, the sort of old school Dawkins type of. And this is why people like Sam Harris, bro, they're very clever, that they've realized there's a gap in the market, right? There's a need, which is people are moving away from that traditional type of dry reductionist type of naturalism where it's all matter, right? And that's it. The human beings by their very nature are spiritual, bro. So we're spiritual beings, and we need to have that spiritual nourishment, which atheism and naturalism does not provide. Hence, Sam Harris is bringing this new type of new age religion, if you like, of atheism or spirituality on atheism, the spiritual atheism, and other atheists are following suit. So that in itself highlights something very important, bro, which is that as human beings, our very nature expresses itself, and we can't help it. Atheists speak about animal rights, human rights, they champion them. In some cases, and we have to be honest here, in some cases, they are greater champions of animal rights and human rights than Muslims are, unfortunately, right? But when it comes to providing an account for these realities, there is no account, right? They can't justify what they know and feel to be true. And this is one of the greatest failings of atheism, bro, which is that we are adopting a worldview or an ideology which is in stark contrast to your very nature as a human being, right? So you're living a contradiction. You're living in this cognitive dissonance continuously, right? Which is painful. And that's another thing, bro, is that it's painful to live this because you know you have this and you value yourself as a human being from the point of view that you recognize that there are moral truths, that there is good, there is bad, there is right, there is wrong, that there is justice and all of these truths and values you hold on to. But on atheism and naturalism, you can't account for any of these. You can't provide it. It strips you. It literally, bro, it strips you naked. It strips you, you're naked. Like, it leaves you naked. And you're standing there and you're looking around and you're thinking, hold on a second, I'm supposed to have clothes. but my clothes have been stripped away, because you know that these things are true, but you can't. There is no account for them. If anything, they don't exist. That's the conclusion you come to. They do not exist. So you're fighting this losing battle, literally. And I think this is going to be, and this will continue to be the biggest thing that comes and bites people, or atheism in the backside, is that, you know, the worldview you're adopting to turn away from God, and there's many links here, but to go and enjoy yourself and make the most of this life, is going to come and bite you in the backside, from the perspective that it will suck out the meaning from the life you're trying to enjoy. And that's the crazy thing about this, bro. It's a vicious circle. You turn away from God to enjoy this life, and by turning away from God, it's sucking the meaning out of life. So there's no life. There is nothing to enjoy anymore. And it'll leave you in this conundrum, bro, which will make people, at least hopefully, it'll make people realize that they can't keep living this absurdity, and they have to like let go and turn back, basically.
I'm trying. Yeah, no, sorry. I was listening partially. There's
Were you?
Yes. I hope so. Somebody keeps asking, Anis ul Haq, when are you releasing the reintroducing Richard Dawkins video? I don't know.
Which video is this?
Yeah, this is something I committed to publicly, and I haven't started yet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get this atheist. You don't need God to be good, right? Any comments? I'm a good person without any God. Okay. Mr. Atheist, would you like to join us on live for friendly chat? No fireworks, all friendly chat. Actually, we can first ask him how the lockdown is. Okay. Anyway, so Imran, do you need to go now?
No, I'm fine. I'm actually enjoying this now.
Really? Okay, fine. That's fine.
I thought I can only stand so much of you, bro, but I'm actually managing quite well, so I'm gonna carry on, inshallah.
My look.
Yeah, so much of you combing your beard, man.
Anyway, okay. So Imran, let's go back to this point about back to basics. We just did a live Dawah training for the IORA channel, and actually, here we go. This is a good question related to that. I think Matt Dillahunty is the hardest atheist guy to debate with. I don't really think so. I think people completely overestimate him. Personally, for me, the most dangerous atheist to debate is Stephen Law, right? He's quite difficult. I debated him a few years ago, 2013. He's very sharp, very smart. Okay, Mr. Atheist said, I cannot right now. That's okay, no problem. Maybe in the future. Okay, so the thing about Matt Dillahunty, right? He comes across really, really confident. Imran, when you telling me of a video where...
Yeah, I've actually did a video 2 days ago on my channel on Matt Dillahunty and his views on the meaning of life and value. So definitely check that out. It's the most recent video on my channel.
By the way,
you can watch it there.
How do I play a video while we're live?
You can, at the bottom of the screen, you know where you got to share the link, there's an option there to share screen, and you can share your screen, and you can add it. It'll add into another window underneath us, I think.
Okay. So anyway, Imran, what was the video you did against Matt Dillahunty?
Meaning, it was basically his views on the meaning of life. So there was a video that seems quite recent, because, you know, with Matt Dillahunty, there's some videos of his that go back 10, 15 years or something, right? And he looks like a totally different person in those videos.
Nonsense.
Yeah, so I came across one which was more recent, and that's why I decided to do this, because I didn't want to straw man him from the perspective he may have changed his opinions, right, over the years. This seems like quite recent, and basically he talks about the meaning of life and the question about the meaning of life, and he just basically acknowledges there is no, you know, given meaning to life. You just here to enjoy yourself and do what you wish, and etc. So I respond to that and just share my thoughts on that. And I think it's quite interesting, because what it does, it shows no matter what level, if you like, of atheist or or what caliber of atheist or type of atheist you may be, you're nevertheless going to say run into the same issue when it comes to the meaning of life. It's a universal Achilles heel, if you like, for atheism, bro. They cannot deal with the question of what is, like, okay, on atheism, where is the meaning? Where is the purpose? You know, where is the value? They can't answer these questions.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to play your video for a second. And
it's like 1 hour long.
Forget that. Forget that.
Yeah. So you might as well just share the link if you want.
Death is more valuable than life. Are you going to flip?
I love how you chose the point. I love how he chose that point where he's just looking so, I don't know how to describe him. He just looks like
giddy.
No, you know, like a truck driver, yeah, who basically has been working like a 18-hour shift, and then his boss says that you're going to get an extra bonus or something. Anyway. So what's going on? Let's play.
You tell me, bro. What's happening with the screen?
You know, what you're going to do in that case, there are many people out there that find pleasure in things that you may not find pleasure in, that you may consider morally abhorrent and crazy. Well, this now opens up the moral discussion. How do we now determine what's morally right and wrong? This is another big issue. So you can see there's layers upon layers of confusion and problems and issues on it.
Wait, bro, pause it. Let me explain what was going on here. I think it was quite a funny point. So basically, what he boils it down to, he has this principle that he shares here, which is life seems to be more worthwhile. Something like this. Life seems to be more worthwhile than death. So it's better to be alive than to be dead. That was the point he was trying to get at, right? So, and then he later on in a couple of, as the video continues, he sort of highlights why that's the case, and he boils it down to, like, you can do things you enjoy in life, right? There's things that lead to pleasure, right? So you can go for walks, spend time with family, have food, have sex, etc., etc. He just gives all of these things, and obviously now these are tied into what you were saying earlier, which is, well, therefore life is better than non-life or death because you can have pleasure. That's what it seems like his view is. So as long as you can enjoy yourself, that makes life worthwhile. Well, then I said, well, the point was here is, well, that opens up to another discussion now. Okay, so if it's about pleasure, if life is worthwhile because of pleasure, not because of there's some intrinsic meaning in life, well, what's pleasurable to you is not going to be pleasurable to Bob down the road, right? Maybe Cowboy Bob, who wants to, go and do some crazy, abhorrent, nasty things to someone. How are you going to say don't do it when by your definition, he's doing what gives his life value or some sort of value, which is to do things which lead to pleasure, right? So then so again, the point being, it's not only one hole, bro. You puncture one hole comes with 10 other holes. So there's a hole where it comes to the meaning of life, and then it opens up a hole of morality, etc. And it's just water's leaking in all directions, bro.
So let's deal with that. So somebody wrote something before that. There's a comment written by Khalid bin Walid Raza, which a comment I agree with. Yeah, Imran needs to be a better wingman and better with comment. He just awkwardly stays silent. Good, I like that. Which crack? He cracked you.
Which comments? Which comments?
So, but anyway, brother Imran, you keep strawmanning atheists.
Okay. If you could tell me how strawmanning atheists, that would be a good start.
Yeah, but that's one way of dealing with it. But I could just turn around and say, "What's wrong with strawmanning?"
Well, nothing you could do that.
They'll say it's wrong because you're attacking an argument which wasn't made. I'll be like, so what? You're spreading falsehood. So what? Falsehood's bad. Why? Why is falsehood bad? Look, at the end of the day, because of nihilism, everything.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I'm a bit slow right now for the fast. I get what you're saying. It's fine. I get it. You get it now.
All right, let's go to Matt Delonte. Matt Delonte. Right, let's play it.
It's like a submarine at the bottom of the ocean, and there are leaks, and you're trying to plug a hole here, and then there's another hole here, and you're plugging a third hole, and the fourth hole opens up. You're just constantly trying to plug holes.
Right. Okay. What did you mean by that?
So plugging holes, that's what I was saying. So look, according to him, there is no meaning to life. but we should live because we can have pleasure. That's what he's essentially saying in the video. We should live because we can experience pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, one way you can approach that is by asking, well, why is experience, what does it mean to experience pleasure? Why does that make your life worthwhile, right? You can go down that line, but we don't need to. If you just grant him that for a second, okay, it's about pleasure and pleasure makes life worthwhile. Now, you can see how that may practically work for people, but then it opens up the moral discussion as to, well, what should be allowed as far as what leads to pleasure, right? So, like for him, maybe going for a walk is pleasurable and makes his life worthwhile, but Cowboy Bob down the road may find it pleasurable to sort of slap his elderly neighbors every Wednesday evening, right? And that gives him pleasure. So, according to his own standard, how are you now going to stop him? You have to now make some sort of moral claim against Cowboy Bob to stop him from doing that. But how are you going to make that moral claim on atheism? Because you can't account for objective morality on atheism. So there's holes within, and that was the point about the submarine with leaking holes. You plug one hole, there's another hole. You know those cartoons, bro? I don't know if you ever saw it. Like, I think it's Sylvester and Tweety cartoons where, you know, there's one hole that opens up, he sticks his finger in it. There's another hole, he sticks his nose in it. Third hole, he sticks his toe in it. Fourth hole, he sticks his other hand in it. And you just keep continuously trying to plug holes. And you're not being able to stop the water from coming in.
Yeah.
And this is the crazy thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it kind of reminds me of something that was mentioned earlier, and Jordan has put it as selective atheism, which is that you're selectively, choosing what to be skeptical of. So, you're more than happy to take rationality as self-evident. You're more than happy to take the value of truth as self-evident. You're more than happy to take the idea of value as self-evident. But when it comes to anything else being self-evident, it's like, no, we can't really do that. So you find a lot of inconsistency in their narrative. Now, in that video, I want to ask you this question, Imran, because me and you, we've been doing the same sort of thing, and some people may be wondering, are we just copying each other, or is there a meaning behind us both focusing on the same area, which is we both often speak about nihilism, meaning of life, and you even had a debate on this, the absurdity of life without God, with that guy, what's his name?
John Richards.
John Richards, right? Why is this such an important topic to you and me?
Bro, for me personally, look, I personally experienced it myself first and foremost, right? I went through several years of my life where I lived in a way as if God did not exist, which led to me experiencing an existential nihilism for myself. I experienced this firsthand for myself, and I know how painful and dark this place is. So that's what propelled me into this subject. But secondly, I think what really fascinates me, bro, is that it's the covered up Achilles heel of atheism. It's what they don't want to talk about. It's something which is so obvious, but it's completely ignored, right? And it's what's going to lead to, like I said, bro, it's going to be the biggest thing which leads to the sinking of atheism, this new atheism, bro, in the 21st century. And it is already, because human beings by their very nature are purpose-driven creatures that are looking for purpose. They see purpose in things. They make things with purpose. It's all purpose-driven for us. Yeah. But when it comes to our existence, these worldviews push us in the corner where we can't account for meaning and purpose for ourselves, right? Yeah. And that dissonance creates a lot of pain and a lot of anxiety within the human being. It just doesn't make sense, right? So it's important to point this out to people, because many people, what's happening, bro? Many atheists are experiencing that pain, that angst of this reality, but they can't put their finger on it. What's going on? So I just want to spell it out for them that it's that simple. You don't need to even go into the discussion of, problem of evil, God's existence. Here's some arguments against God. No, it's very simple. This ideology of atheism and naturalism is self-referential. It's self-refuting. It destroys itself because it strips you from those very things you know to be true. It strips you from the tools that you use to be able to even come up with the idea that atheism is true. It strips you from these things. So it collapses in on itself, literally, right? And people just need to be aware of this. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that atheists can give in the face of the onslaught of nihilism and on the fact that space, time, energy, matter, chance cannot give you meaning, value, purpose, is cliches such as this cliche. The meaning of life is to pursue happiness via virtuous means. I mean, that's all
Okay,
they
good.
say. Like, what would
Yeah.
your response be to this?
No,
amazing-
well, let's look at this now. So the meaning of life is to pursue happiness via virtues. Meaning, okay, beautiful, right? Intuitively, we recognize this is a beautiful statement, right? And now this is what's interesting, bro. I want to deconstruct this on a couple of levels quickly. Yeah. Number one, that statement is just a statement on atheism and naturalism. Where it has no intrinsic meaning. Where did you get this from? It's like you just pluck it from sort of cyber consciousness. Yeah, you just pluck it and say, okay, here's a principle, here's an idea, but it has no intrinsic meaning. Where did you get this from? What does it mean? It means nothing, right? You're just making it up, literally. You're making something up as you go along, right? Now, another thing that statement is doing is it's recognizing human nature, but it can't account for it. By our very nature, we want to be virtuous, right? We want to be happy. We understand this, right? We want to be good. That's what I was saying earlier. Be good. We recognize goodness, right? We recognize justice, etc. But on atheism and naturalism, it strips you from being able to account for that very statement you made.
Yep.
That is the problem. That's exactly what we're highlighting here, right? You can't account for it. And what happens, bro, is, and this is what Dilhanti did in his video as well, and this is what many of the existentialist atheists did as well, which was they say there is no meaning to life, but we're going to make meaning for ourselves. We're going to give ourselves meaning. You know, we have to be brave, and we have to be virtuous, and we have to be responsible, and we have to, you know, be good. And all of they'll throw all of these ideas out there with passion and with powerful rhetoric, which appeals to human nature, right? Because we recognize it, but you can't account for it. This is the point. Logically, it makes no sense. It's just empty statements, wishful thinking, things you're making up. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I think this is a topic which definitely we need to delve into deeper, because, you know, when I start thinking about, you know, sometimes, because obviously when you are debating against an atheist, you need to start thinking like them, you know, and also trying to get into their head. I start thinking to myself, if I was an atheist, how would I live my life? And I'm being absolutely honest with you, Imran, right? I cannot see myself ever propagating atheism, even if I happen to be an atheist. Because for me, it would be like so meaningless.
Yeah.
I would probably just go off on a pursuit of hedonism for a while.
Yeah, no, I can envisage you on a canal, sitting at a canal in Southall somewhere under a bridge with a fishing rod, and just with a can of beans, bro, and just that's it. You're just hiding away from the world and doing your own thing, trying to find meaning in fishing.
I suppose that's one way to try and beat nihilism, but it's not going to last very long.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. I'm telling you, it's madness. It's literally madness.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second. Carry on talking.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time. I think I'm gonna have to run in 5 minutes, bro. Inshallah.
Yeah.
So you can carry on.
Yeah. Somebody's joining us called Jamshade.
MashaAllah.
Jamshade. Get atheists to prove their philosophy scientifically. Somehow then they recognize science has limits. Yes, that's a very good point. Very good point.
SubhanAllah.
Shade, is he still there? I don't know if he's still there. Is he still there?
Send him the link. It's Jamshed the link. Get him on.
I sent him the link. Oh, when he comes on, just start cracking him, yeah? Very nice to him. There he is. No, he's not here yet. Just give him a few cracks. He needs it. Ramadan.
Bro, I'm gonna head now. I have to go.
You have to go.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, just 1 second. Just give him.
Unfortunately. Oh, he's coming, yeah?
One second. When he comes on board, let's just give him a few cracks and just cuss him down. We'll leave. Why not? It's not bad. It's not evil. You know, evil doesn't exist. Good doesn't exist. It's all meaningless. That Mr. Atheist is still talking. I'm like, what on earth are you talking about?
Bro, if there was ever a Pakistani remake of the Joker movie, I think you'd be a really good potential actor for that. You know, that you really get into character. You really put yourself in that position of an atheist when you're talking sometimes. Yeah. It's late in the day
Hey,
and
can you see him?
yeah, I can see it.
Can you see it? Jamshed, jump online. Why isn't he jumping? Oh, I see.
Yep.
I screwed up somewhere. You know what happened, yeah? I didn't send Jamshed the link to the live stream. I sent him when he's about to jump on here. Make sure we just cuss him down. Oh, did you see it?
That's a shame.
What's
He's
going on?
alive.
How's it going, boys?
Islam.
Bro, that wasn't the wrong link. Are you telling me try it again? Bro, I'm the techie. I know what's going on.
Oh,
I
How's it
sent him a link to the previous podcast, the previous live stream.
You sent
That's
me
what
the
he did,
link for your YouTube video, man, the one that you were talking about.
Oh God.
right,
And I
yeah.
said that's a YouTube video. Like he's like, yeah, just click it, just click it. I had to send him a screenshot to say what
Anyway,
is
we wanted to ask you a question. So, if there was a Pakistani
Uh-oh.
version of the Joker,
wait, it's just gone off.
and this is the tech guy. This is the tech guy, yeah. So, listen, yeah.
Wait, my internet is fine. What's going on here, man? Internet's going up and down. Hanji, yes.
Okay, if there's a Pakistani version of the Joker, you know the film. Have you seen the recent film, The Joker?
Yes.
Okay,
I didn't like.
you see Imran. That's the problem with having Jamshed, man. So awkward. He has to be different. You know, everyone loves the Joker, and Jamshed's like, I don't like the Joker because I want to be different.
No, it's not. No. Listen, honestly, someone tell me now, what was the value of that film if not for the fact that it built upon all the lore of the story beforehand? There was absolutely that whole film relied upon the fact that it called itself Joker. If it was just about Joe Bloggs goes through a mental breakdown, everyone would say, "Well, that was a rubbish film," because ultimately it didn't really get anywhere.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind going through watching a film of Jamshed having a breakdown. They're just walking around. He's doing train spotting. He's living under a bridge. And he cracked.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch it. I wouldn't really mind. So anyway, Jamshed, when did you?
Brothers, I'm
Sorry.
gonna have to leave you guys, man. I'm gonna have to go. Assalamu alaikum. Take it, Jamshed.
Salaam
Deal
alaikum,
with-
bro.
Got rid of him. Got rid of him.
Uh-oh.
Don't need him. Anyway, listen. We were talking about this before, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this before that instead of challenging an atheist, you know, an atheist says, give me a rational argument, give me a logical argument, or Islam is against human rights. Instead of arguing against them, just simply using nihilism and saying, well, why does rationality matter anyway? Why does truth matter? Why does morality matter? Why do human rights matter? All of these things are meaningless anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that's most what you and Imran kind of prefer, going down that the whole philosophical thing. For me, I prefer to make it a lot more basic than that. In my experience, most atheists actually don't understand atheism. I've only actually ever come across, in my entire Dawah career, so to speak, only one atheist that actually realized the repercussions of atheism. And he realized that when I forced him to ultimately conclude
Get out of
that he
here.
was
Get out of here. 2 meters. Shush. Sorry about that.
You're both in the same office. I know, we can tell you're in the office, man. You're doing like the CNN trick, you know, you're having satellite link up despite being on the other side of the room.
He's not maintaining social distancing. I have to throw a hat in. He's like a king.
Yeah, so you know all these terms and things.
Sorry, say that again?
So all these terms like nihilism and this, that, and the other, I find a lot of people don't really understand it. They're just like, oh no, I just don't believe in God. I just break it. Like I said, my favorite question to ask them is, look, what would you accept as proof of a creator? And then there's a second step to that as well. Because fundamentally, I prefer that question for so many reasons. But number one, it puts the ball back in their court. And the easiest way to give dawah to someone or to plant the seed in someone's mind is to get them to think about it itself. You can tell people, you can say, listen, the universe had to have been created and blah, blah, blah had to have happened. But that's like a very debate style. And in a debate, your opponent is always going to try and refute you, regardless of whether you're right or wrong. I've never seen a debate where the other person says, oh, do you know what? I actually have changed my position to your side. What you want to have is a conversation where rather than saying the universe had to have been created, you ask, well, okay, fine. Where did it come from? Let them come up with the answers. And if you know where you're going and how to do it properly, you'll get them in a position where they trap themselves. Now, if you ask them, what evidence would you accept as proof of a creator? For the most part, they'll say nothing. Actually, they've never really thought about it, and because they've never thought about it, they've never thought about a standard, which means they've given themselves this implicit get out of jail free card. And you can trap them on that and say, well, if they've never had a standard, then why did they deny all of the other standards? Because if they haven't got a standard to begin with, then surely they should accept pretty much everything or anything going, and force them to think about it. And when they start thinking about it, Islam is for people who reflect. When they start thinking about it, then you can start smashing out all of these stupid things that they come up with, like, oh, I want a voice from the skies to call out to me. Okay. Oh, actually, do you know what? The first one they come up with is I want God to, I want to meet God and I want to shake God by the hand. So I put my hand out to it and extend my hand to them. And they're like,
bro, I remember. Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember you doing something similar in Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
You're totally
Yeah.
baffled. They were so baffled, bro.
Yeah, because it works. So I put my hand out. They're like, "Oh, you're not God." And I said, "Exactly." Because if God came down in a human form, we don't believe this, but hypothetically, you would still reject him. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, fine, true. Okay, then God needs to appear on BTV, on TV." He did, Bruce Almighty. Yeah, but that's just a movie. Yeah, but you know what? You're gonna say it's special effects or whatever have you. Okay, fine. I want my name written in the stars. Bro, when was the last time you looked up and saw the stars? And even then, if you saw the stars, you recognized your name. What about the other, 6 billion people on the planet? And even then, if there was some kind of a glyph that somehow resembled your name, so what? What is that going to tell you about God or who he is or how you need to worship him? Yada, yada, yada. Ultimately, eventually, you'll have to get to a point where they come down to and they say, well, okay, fine, we'll need some kind of revelation that has to be miraculous. It has to be accessible to all of mankind. It has to be timeless. We have to have a mechanism by which we know that it couldn't have been human created. Do you know what? I agree with you. It's called the Quran. Now, let me explain that to you. And I find that a much better way, because ultimately they've defeated themselves. You haven't defeated them. They defeat themselves. And inshallah, they learn a little bit of humility there.
Yeah. So, when you say to them, what is atheism, and they get it wrong, how does that happen? Like, give me an example of a conversation of how it goes.
How they get it wrong? I don't know, man.
The way I thought about it is that if atheism is a fashion statement anyway, so,
It is. Okay, so a way that they get it wrong is by giving value to their life. Because look, if atheism is true, there is no value to life, because at the end of the day, we're just cosmological accidents.
Yeah.
Right? We're a biological accident. Everything just happens to be chance. There is no purpose or meaning in anything. Everything just is completely random. So if everything is completely random, then you should be placing no value into something. You might as well just walk into the middle of the street and just end yourself, just to have the experience or whatever have you. Only one person that I've ever spoken to actually acknowledged that much. This is something that I picked up from Hamza, actually. And actually managed to get him to convince himself that he was molecularly no different to a snowman. And just as he would have no problem in destroying a snowman, in theory, he should have no problem in destroying himself. Obviously, we don't advocate that because as Muslims, we believe that obviously there's purpose and value in life. But from the atheist mindset, they've got no position in which to give this value anything because their very worldview is that everything is completely random and there's no value in anything. Any value that you see is something that you've created yourself and is purely subjective. But then even for you to have that emotional awareness of value, even that you're just making that up because you've got no basis in which to claim that as well.
Yeah.
Because then they lead on to scientism, that because you can't measure scientifically what your emotional response is, how much you love X, Y, and Z, whatever have you, from their perspective, they argue this in the case of creator and other things. If you can't measure it,
Oh my God.
scientifically, if you can't measure it, it's stupid.
Yeah. I really like how you use their criteria against them because they seem to have this fascination, this obsession, this unhealthy trust in anything that remotely sounds scientific. Well, if it's not repeatable, if it's not repeatable, if it's not observable, if it's not measurable, it's meaningless, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens to literature? What happens to art? What happens to value, to morality, to judgments, to emotions like love, hope, fear, trust? All of this disappears. I want to ask you about another point, and this is something I've been thinking about. You know, faith, they usually ridicule faith. Faith, let's define it as trust in something without empirical evidence, something like this.
Without basis.
Sorry?
Without basis.
Without basis. Without.
For example, I don't have faith in Islam.
Right.
If someone says to me, "Do you have faith?" I say, "No," because I can establish Islam to be the truth more readily than I can establish I'm speaking to you right now.
Yeah,
so,
no, I don't. Why I mean is because faith can mean different things. What I mean is like when an atheist is doing science, they recognize that they have faith that their senses are working properly. They have faith that rationality is something that is good, that should be pursued. They have faith the universe is rationally accessible, that we can understand the universe. They have faith that there is a uniformity of nature fundamentally, because these things can't be proven. They're just there.
They're axioms. They have to take them as building blocks for subsequent points to work out. Yeah, axioms. They're just assumed to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody is asking, who is this guy?
So
that's a bit harsh. This is Jamshed.
Do I know this guy? I don't know.
Jamshed is one of my old teachers, and you can see by his grey-white beard that he's managed to,
he's from the old time.
From the old time.
Bro, I was doing dawah when Facebook was in black and white. That's how far back I go.
I like that. I like that answer. And to top it off, he lives in Cardiff. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
You can't beat a Welshman.
Yeah.
You were born in Wales, right? Wales. You born in Wales?
Yeah, born and bred in Wales.
How come you don't have the Welsh accent?
I don't have a Welsh accent.
Do you?
I don't know. That's because I'm international. Because I used to hang around with you guys a lot, isn't it? I used to come and chill down your house every other weekend. Remember those days?
Like Jamshed, if you hear him, right, he sounds really professional and really, like he's a computer scientist. He does all these programs, yeah. But I've seen the side of him which is more hobo-ish, yeah. Like I remember him and another brother in 2012 in Ramadan when it was really hot, and there was one sofa and the brother was sleeping, and Jamshed's like, "Listen, bro." You had your turn. I need to sleep on the sofa. I remember that time. Oh, you probably don't remember.
When was this?
Yeah, this is the Olympics 2012.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, you were hoboing in the office and used to bring over the boys from Cardiff.
Oh yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, we sleep in the office. Yeah.
You see?
I remember that now.
Yeah, good old times. Good old times.
Those are the days, man.
So anyway, Jamshed, this other thing I wanted to ask you.
Wait, by the way, talking about that, I just want to correct something that I said last time you had me on. I can't remember what I said with regards to scientific evidence. I said, oh, because you asked me about proving God scientifically. And I said, well, God is outside the nature of science. I take that back, actually. I completely forgot. You absolutely can prove God scientifically.
Ooh,
So
okay, let's see how.
absolutely,
Let's see
you can. Absolutely.
How?
Empirically.
How?
So I have five questions, right?
First, you need to define science.
Right, okay. So science is basically the process in which you observe, you measure the natural world, right?
Yeah.
And you can draw conclusions. And your conclusions can be deductive or inductive as well. So deductive conclusions are based on where you have a known set of possibilities and you eliminate incorrect ones. So you're left with what must be the truth. Or induction is where you observe you make a set of observations and you presume the next observation to be in line with what you've already observed. Okay. Yep. Now, what you have to understand is one of the principles that science itself relies upon is various axioms that you mentioned and the principles of logic. So I have 5 questions that I go through, which are simple yes and no questions that should be very easy to establish that there is a creator. So first question is whether our reality is real, whether this world is real. Now, scientifically speaking, if you were to say, no, our reality isn't real, well, that just completely destroys any scientific endeavor whatsoever.
You have to have faith in reality being real, yeah.
Yeah. So scientifically speaking, you have to recognize that, okay, there was that our reality is real. And then did it have a beginning? Did it begin to exist? Again, it's a yes or a no. Now, scientifically speaking, if you were to say no, that would establish an infinite history of events. And from a scientific perspective, you cannot establish an actual infinity of anything. There has to be a finite amount. So scientifically speaking, you have to say that, yes, there was an ultimate beginning. Fine. So did that beginning have a cause? And again, scientifically speaking, if you were to say...
Jamshid is frozen.
So the answer is yes or no. This event happened without a cause. Again, you completely undermine every single principle of science because now you're attributing things happening without any basis. How can you ever perform any kind of scientific endeavor ever again if you can't connect the dots between cause and effect? So scientifically, you have to say, yes, there was a cause. And then, so you've established the cause. Now, was the cause itself? It's affirm. If you affirm that the cause was itself, again, you affirm self-creation. Scientifically speaking, we have never, ever in the history of everything, ever witnessed anything like self-creation. So from a scientific perspective, again, from induction, you can't argue that, yes, self-creation is a thing. It has to be created by an external entity, cause and effect. And therefore, that leads us to the last question is, was that thing, that external thing that created our reality, was that also cause? Now, if you say yes, you enter into the problem of infinite regress again, which scientifically speaking, you cannot establish. So you have to answer no to ultimately conclude that our reality began by a necessarily existent uncaused cause, which breaks no scientific principles whatsoever. It's the only coherent explanation that conforms to any and every single scientific methodology that we know.
Okay, I see what you're saying. That would be a logical argument using science as indirect evidence. It wouldn't be a purely scientific argument.
No, it's not putting God. You can't put God under a test tube, of course. Yeah. But the point is, for anyone who believes in scientism, you have to accept you believe in science, the conclusions of science as well, and the principles of science. You can't believe in science on one hand and then recognize either our reality is not real or that it has an infinite history or X or Y or Z. You can't occupy two contradictory positions at the same time.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. So in regards to scientism, since you poked at that sort of problem, do you think this problem of scientism is actually sort of subsiding? Because I'm actually starting to think that a lot of people, they're getting into New Age spirituality. They are sort of ignoring this hardcore empirical, new atheist type of stuff. Do you second that, or do you think no? Actually, there's still a lot of people who believe in some form of scientism.
Obviously, I can't speak for the wider majority. I can only speak for that which I've been exposed to. But from what I've been exposed to, that yes, it's not as hardcore as it appeared to be a few years ago. Yeah. And there could be several reasons for that. AIRA has done a lot of work in this background. A lot of people have been trained up. There's a lot more material available now. Then you have one of the 4 horsemen who passed away. There's a lot of counter rhetoric going on now that's actually increased in its quality. So there could be a lot of reasons. So yeah, I have noticed that, but I've also at the same time not put myself in positions where I don't, unfortunately, because of family and whatnot, I don't go out and give dawah as much as I used to. I don't go to Hyde Park now as much as I used to because it's it's a completely different environment now, and it's not one that I find conducive for the dawah anymore. But I have actually noticed that, yeah, there's a lot less militant atheism, hardcore, or even to the point of anti-theism, that sided a lot more, and many potential reasons for that. But yeah, I share that viewpoint.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it is, it's like a new toy. When you get a new toy, people are like, "Oh my God, this is the best toy! It's the best." Yeah, it's like this. This key ring I have at the back of my mobile, yeah. I was so happy when I saw this and I started playing around with it. I was like, oh, look, it's so cool, yeah. And then after a little while, you're just like, oh, it's just another piece of plastic, yeah. And it's kind of like that with the new atheist movement, that they came up after 9/11, obviously, and they had this thing, right, we're going to evangelize the world's going to believe in reason, religion's going to end, we're going to go out there, we're going to make a change in the world, we're going to speak about human rights. And then, like, it was just a failure. It's just, I mean, a key point in the new atheist movement was the Reason Rally. Right? So there was a Reason Rally which they had at the time of the elections in 2012, and this was the first ever time in American history. Remember, America is still the greatest power in the world, right? In terms of influence, culture, power, all the rest. So there was the first ever in 2012 rally for reason, a rally against religion. Remember, American candidates are usually very religious, right? Even the secular ones pretend to be religious. So what happened was, 2016, they planned another Reason Rally, and the previous Reason Rally had, I think, 40,000 people, and they expected this Reason Rally to be really big, really fantastic, greater than before. The atheist movement's getting bigger, and just like in 2012, you had Richard Dawkins, Aaron Ra, all the rest. You had big speakers in 2016, and it was a flop. Right? Wow. Yeah, it was a flop. And there was a lot of atheists who were discussing that, look, why is our movement dying? What's going on? Like, and there's all these back and forths. And the way I'm thinking about it is, well, firstly, people like Jordan Peterson have stolen half of the atheist audience. They've managed to attract a lot of people. And plus other people, they tone down over a period of time. They start to realize actually atheism has nothing to offer.
Yeah. Also, I actually find in my experience, atheists love to talk about atheism rather than actually practice it. So an apt example that comes up a lot in Ramadan. I'll give you a practical example. I'll give you a practical example, right? And it's on the really topic of, especially when you're talking about God, what comes up a lot is the problem of evil, right? Why is there so much evil in the world? Why is there so much suffering? Now, one response to that is, well, look, what have you done about that, right? Because at the end of the day, if that child in, you know, the Middle East or whatever have you is starving away, what have you done about that? Have you, you know, made anything? Have you donated any money? Have you done anything in your life to help ease that person? Maybe suffering exists because you don't do anything to alleviate that. You've got all the cards in your hand, but you don't share them out. Did you ever think that you could be the cause of suffering, you know, rather than this abstract concept of God? Oh, no, I give charity. And this is where I actually get personal, right? How much charity do you give? How much charity do you? Because as a Muslim, I give X, Y, and Z. I give the zakat, I give sadaqah, blah, 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 because my religion obviously advocates for that. And I'll go into actual numbers with them. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that, but I'll go into numbers with them. How much have you given? And wallahi, I have yet to come across anyone who in the course of an entire year has given more than £50. So they like to talk about, because they come up, atheists like to come up with this thing, oh, but when an atheist gives charity, we don't do it expecting some reward from a God. We just do it out of the goodness of our hearts. Yeah, but the difference is, Mr. Atheist, you don't give the charity at all. Mr. Joe Bloggs, who's starving on the street, doesn't care why you gave the £50. He just wants the £50 so he can fill his belly for that night, right? Or for that week. Ultimately, to him, the reason doesn't matter. So you can keep your high horse principles if you want, because the problem is they never manifest. Does that make sense?
I
totally
concur with that.
In the rant where I was going at is they like to talk about it, but they don't put their money and their effort into actually doing it. So they like to talk about, oh yeah, but you know, when we're good, when we give to charity, you know, we give because we're so benevolent. You don't give, Yanni. Give it, and then you can make that argument. But if you don't give, you can't hold on to this theoretical superiority because it doesn't manifest.
Yeah, definitely. And this is also why I think we should speak about those who actually practice atheism, which is the Soviet Union. Atheists hate it when you bring this up. So that's why we should bring it up more often, because it does trigger them. And what we need to realize is essentially the Cold War was a war between the godless and Christianity. Because America, if you look at their rhetoric, they always used to attack the Soviet Union as being immoral and as being godless. Today, if you say this person is godless, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's like saying Jamshid is wearing a t-shirt. I mean, it doesn't mean anything offensive. But there was a time, or as late as even the 1990s, where saying this is godless was saying this is something bad. And if you look at the rhetoric of the Soviet Union and the rhetoric of the West, especially America, it was very much God-centric. You know, in God we trust. Even about when they were supporting the political movements against the Soviet Union, they were trying to push religion as well. So it's not only the case that they love to talk about atheism rather than practicing it, but when people practice atheism, it doesn't actually work. Yeah,
it's not just that as well. Actually, I remember years ago watching a video from Sister Dalia Mujahid explaining this, and I can't find that video anymore. But she explained the whole rhetoric thing really, really nicely. And her explanation was that, look, when you have a community of people that you're trying to motivate, that you're trying to move into doing something, you have to use the rhetoric of that people, regardless of what you want the aims to be. So if you have a society that is predominantly Christian, you're going to use Christian rhetoric to get that society to agree to a course of action. You're going to say, it's for Jesus, it's for this, it's for that. If you have a community that is Muslim or any other place, you're going to use rhetoric that resonates with that community, even if it means that the actions and the end results, go and invade another country, impose sanctions, whatnot, are exactly the same. So when you have these other communities, you know, saying that they're godless, again, it's a case of we are Christians, we are, you know, we believe in the one true God, Jesus, A'udhu Billah, this, that, and the other, and everyone else is not us, so we should go and attack them. You know, they still continue that rhetoric even to today. But that's because that's the rhetoric that resonates with their society. And that's another thing too, that it's a skill actually to deconstruct what a person is saying, and how much of their rhetoric is engineered specifically to resonate with a particular mindset. I mean, like I said, the whole war on terror. We're gonna. It was all about freedom. It was all about freedom this, freedom that, freedom this, freedom that. They don't care about freedom. Americans, they don't realize this, but they're one of the least free people in the world, because they've got so many rules, they've got so many regulations. They are run by corporations. Like even now, like see with this pandemic and things like that now, right? So most of the countries, or many of the countries in the world, we've got free healthcare. We've got protected jobs, this, that, and the other. In America, they have to pay stupid amounts for healthcare, for insurance, and things like that. Their jobs can, the corporations can get rid of them free will. And in terms of the bailouts, most of that is going to the corporations. People in America like to think that they are free. They like to think that they're number one, but they're not. They're trailing behind in so many different qualities and factors. But the problem is they just don't know what else is out there. They don't know anything better.
Yeah. And talking about freedom, I just remembered something which we don't really use in the dawah much, but we should. This whole idea that we're free, right? We're free. From a purely atheist point of view, it's the most silly thing you could say, because fundamentally our brain chemistry dictates our action, and our brain chemistry going back is dependent upon the initial conditions of the Big Bang. So we don't have any free will. So the people who shout the loudest from the rooftops about freedom and human rights and these things are atheists. And they fundamentally don't realize, like you said, they don't practice atheism, they speak about atheism.
Yeah. They don't follow it through with the repercussions.
Yes. And there's a question which a brother keeps asking, so I'm just going to quickly bring it up. So brother's asking, what's your perspective that Allah mentioned in the Quran that he turned some people into apes? Do these fossils mistakenly lead scientists to believe in human chimpanzee ancestry? Okay, that's a question. That's a question.
Fallacy of the undistributed middle.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Basically, short answer, no. Short answer, no. Human chimpanzee ancestry has other evidence for it. There's other things that they say that this is the reason why we believe in it, which, like I've mentioned previously, is homology. And how do we undermine homology? Well, we can't, because it's true by definition. What we have to speak about is natural selection as a mechanism. But we could do that in another video. Jamshed, we're just going to end now, because we're going to be breaking our fast very soon, inshallah. What time are you breaking your fast, by the way?
8:54, I think.
8:54. You have another 10 minutes after me.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
2017, my first Ramadan
Bro,
fast.
I'm more Western than you, isn't it?
Yes. 2017, my Ramadan was actually with Jamshed. If you remember.
Was it?
Yes.
Was that the one? Yeah, because that came up the whole Ireland thing. Yeah. Yes. Was it 27? Yes, it was. We went in the Batmobile. I had the Batmobile then. Yes. See, yes.
So basically, what happened in 2017 is me and a bunch of brothers, we were going to Wales to give dawah during Ramadan, and the plan was to go from Wales to Ireland. And I fell sick, and then as a wanderer, homeless wanderer, he took me.
I think not sick at the idea of giving dawah to the Irish. You felt illness, Illness,
yes. So then I had to basically take shelter in his Batmobile. You still have that car, by the way.
I still have that car.
By the way, Jamshed is so obsessed with his Batmobile, his Tesla, that he actually had a camera fitted so that when a cat or something starts messing around, it actually came onto his phone, right? So you can actually stop the cat scratching. That's the obsession he had with his Tesla. I hope that cat proper scratched your car up.
Bro, it's called a security camera, okay? I mean, lots of people have security cameras.
Not to stop cats scratching their cars.
I had to find the culprit, didn't I?
You had to. Anyway, give us some last thoughts before we end the session and break our fast, inshallah.
Can I do a plug? Okay, so what many of you guys won't realize is I actually have a whole dawah course actually where I go into a lot of this stuff in a lot of detail. This Sunday for 1 hour at 5:30 on Radio Ramadan Kamri, which is spelled opposite, the vowels opposite way around, is CYMRU instead of CUMRY. Kamri is Welsh spelling. Radio Ramadan Kamri. I'm going to be taking an hour to explain the miracle of the Quran in a manner that will make that you can understand it without even necessarily going into the balagha of the Quran. And at the end of that session, inshallah, I will expose to you how you yourself will be able to experience why the Quran is the greatest miracle of all, greater than all of the other miracles of all of the other prophets, including those, the plagues of Egypt and the miracles that Isa alayhi salam came with. You'll be able to see that just the simple text in the Quran, rather than just taking it for granted because the Quran said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it as a great miracle, I'm going to show it to you, inshallah, inside of 1 hour. Join me for that.
I like that. I like that. I just went to your Facebook to go and find a link to post, but you haven't got it here.
To that? No, because I don't like the whole self. We had this discussion. I don't like the whole self-promotion and that thing, man. It's everyone come look at me. I'm only just doing this now just because, it's the month of the Quran. But otherwise, the whole look at me, I'm a celebrity, pay attention to me. I really just don't like that. I find it wrong with people's intentions.
Look at me, I have a friend who has a Tesla.
Yeah, something like that.
You didn't let me drive it, bro.
I'll let you drive it on remote control.
I don't have a license or insurance.
You don't need to. You just need to have a smartphone.
Nice.
You just need to have a smartphone. You can get it to drive from A to B.
Nice. Okay, so on that note, we will end the session.
Having me.
Jamshed, for joining us on the live session. It's always nice to see your bald head in Ramadan. I'm sure there's a lot more information in that cranium, which we can probably get out, inshallah, in other future sessions. Jazakallah khair for joining us, and assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.